Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Eclectic Goddess. Today I'm doing something different. I've decided to not have the camera on me because the messages of this particular video is more important than, looking at my face, and I also find it quite distracting to be doing a video whilst looking at myself and also concentrating on the messages. So I've faced the camera at the front of my house. You can see the street. You can get to see, life happening here on a wonderful Tuesday morning, the 23rd of February, 2021. So today is going to be a very important video, guys. It's going to be very important. And so I have a lot of notes written down. So if you hear the paper rattling, that's just me looking at my notes so that I'm able to discuss, accurately what I'm trying to get across to you, because this message is very important. And the title of the video is called The Great Reset versus the Great Awakening. It will be a two-part series. I don't know if you can call it series. Anyways, there'll be two parts to these videos. The first one will be concentrating on the Great Reset, and I will discuss that in detail in this video so that you can understand a bit more about the Great Reset. And then the next video will be about the Great Awakening. So you'll see why both things are happening the way that they are. And all I can say is just focus on the bigger picture of what's going on, because there is a lot going on nowadays, and it's hard to make sense of everything that you're hearing and seeing, and there's just a lot of information out there. So I'm hoping this video can help to clear up some of those muddy waters for you, and I will just get right into the video. I will insert some photos as well so you can see what I'm speaking about. These will be photos of some of the people, some of the text, and hopefully I'll be able to insert some videos as well into this video so you can see a little bit more what I'm trying to explain, okay? So anyways, let's jump right into the video. The Great Reset was something that was opinionated by the World Economic Forum. Throughout the video, I will just use the acronym for that, so it will be WEF. I will say the full word first, and then I will use the acronym throughout the rest of the video. So, what is the WEF? They are an international organization for public-private cooperation. So just imagine all the world leaders that are involved with all the essential parts of life. So we're talking about public health, travel, banking and finance, the food industry, pharmaceuticals, education, you name it. This is a public-private cooperation organization that has been founded by an individual named Klaus Schwab. So we're going to call him in the rest of the video KS, okay? So this is KS now, is the founder of this WEF. The WEF, they have an annual meeting in Davos where the world leaders, they come to speak about several economic and social issues on a wide basis. So in 2014, guys, listen, they have opinionated about the Great Reset. And the idea of the Great Reset is to restructure all aspects of life on a global scale. It's a pretty big job, right? How do you go about resetting all aspects of life on a global scale? It's not something that you can do without probable cause. So it was an idea, and they've been speaking about it, and it's in regards to, building a fairer economy, building fairer and equal opportunities and rights for the individuals here on planet Earth. A lot of stuff like that, trying to challenge climate change and all this stuff. So it all sounds pretty good on the surface, what they're trying to do. So yeah, that's what I was saying. It was a floating idea, and they spoke about it in 2014. But like I say, it's not a justable cause to try and implement such a major change on a global scale without something major coming in and disrupting the world on such a major scale in order for them to implement such a major change. Okay, I hope you're sticking with me with this. So obviously every year they've been speaking about this the Great Reset in regards to changing and looking at areas of the world that they could make the society better and, you know, make it even more equal and all-encompassing for everybody. Like everybody gets a fair deal, a fair share, fair and equal rights, right? Fast forwarding to 2018, the WEF has joined forces with Johns Hopkins. So Johns Hopkins is a center for health security. They deal with all the health-related issues in regards to public health and public security, okay? So they teamed up in 2018 to simulate a fictitious pandemic. And I just wonder why they are, you know, doing these fictitious pandemic. But apparently, the World Health Organization, has been dealing with about 200 pandemics every year, they're stating. So they are doing these fictitious experiments apparently so that they can see where greater collaboration can come in play to ensure that these pandemics don't get to crisis level. And I guess that's what they say, the reason why they're doing it, but we don't know what the intent really is. Anyways, so this simulation, this fictitious pandemic, was named Clade X, okay? So they're simulating a fictitious pandemic named Clade X, and this was in 2018, as you can see on this photo here. So what is Clade X? Like I say, it is to see how the world would respond to such a major crisis if it was ever to be something that happened in the future, right? In this Clade X fictitious pandemic, and I have to keep saying fictitious because it was an exercise that was used to kind of get people talking, I guess, from all over the world. The world leaders come in to talk about how they can sort this thing out, blah, 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 whatever they say. So in this Clade X simulation, there was a mock news report, right? I find it very, very interesting, this mock news report. In this mock news report, they've spoken about a lot of different things in regards to what could be happening in a possible pandemic in the future, right? And I think a lot of stuff that they've mentioned is pretty much happening now. If you look around, there's a lot of stuff happening now that they've mentioned back in 2018 in this mock fictitious pandemic. So they have estimated that hundreds of millions of people will be dying. And that's because, again, you know, the viruses that's been going around and stuff that will be affecting people, basically, and they'll be dying from various different things. They also mentioned that it'll be the worst economic depression in history, even worse than 1930s depression. And that was pretty bad. A lot of people have suffered from that. I would recommend, if you have time, go and read into the Great Depression. And they have some diaries that are out there right now that you can read, and you can see the people's viewpoints, exactly how they've dealt with the depression, all the things that they have been told, all the things that they've been promised from the government that did not transpire because the government back then were not working in the people's best interest. And I believe that this is just history repeating itself, right? If I can get a recommendation for you, I'll put it down in the description box below so you can check out some of these diaries, because some of them have been tainted to look less intimidating and less crisis level than it really was, okay? They've also discussed as well about healthcare and health insurance systems collapsing. Now, I can definitely see that happening, And there's a lot of businesses collapsing already at the moment. A lot of businesses collapsing. So it's not very far-fetched that the healthcare and the health insurance systems will be collapsing, because I think if we're going to go into another economy depression, these things are going to be naturally collapsing anyways. Okay. They've also mentioned about most medical supplies will be unavailable. There will be a shortcoming of these things. So do you remember at the start of 2020, we didn't have enough PPEs and stuff like that? Again, it's just showing itself really for some of the stuff that's been happening, because like this is fictitious, right? But we can also see that happening nowadays. So it's not really that fictitious. This is the important part that I've noticed in this mock news report that they've spoken about. So they said that half the workforce in the health industries would have either died, become disabled, or they would have quit their jobs. And you have to wonder why. Why would half the workforce of the healthcare system would have died, become disabled, or quit? The way that the government is being quite shady about the safety of the vaccines makes you think, are they actually safe? Are they effective? Are they useful? Are they just pushing it for another agenda? Guys, so I've just had to pause the video to just make this statement. It was at this point in my previous video where I spoke about my personal experiences of seeing how the vaccine had impacted on people's health and their lives, not only for the patients that I looked after, but also for my colleagues as well. That bit in the previous video was what got my video completely taken down from YouTube, so I have to be careful about certain things that I state. But read between the lines. They also mentioned in America that there'll be a nationalization of the healthcare in the USA, because the private sectors, in America they have the private healthcare insurance. If the health insurance systems are going to be collapsing like they've actually mentioned, then it would have to be that the government would probably implement a nationalized healthcare system. But the important part of this that they've mentioned is that the government will pay for, control, and ration the care given to the people. So if they control and they are rationing the care that they're giving to the people, what if you are an individual who is awake, I should say, and you are speaking your truth and you are against the oppressive systems? Because the government controls and rations the care, if you were to try and get some care, if you ever get yourself in a situation that you need care from the hospital, if they're controlling it and they see you as a threat, why would they give you care? Why would they supply you with care if you are a threat to them? So the fact that they'll be paying for controlling and rationing the care is quite concerning from what they've said. So another interesting thing that they've mentioned as well is that they said the first vaccine in this mock news report, the first vaccine was unsuccessful. And only about a year and a half later, they have developed another vaccine. They called it the Omega vaccine, that was being deployed to help and support the people, because they mentioned how unsuccessful the first one was and the hopes that many people have had and the illnesses that people have developed, the disabilities, the deaths that have been occurring. All of a sudden, they've now decided and have now had the time to develop this Omega vaccine that is actually deemed effective and safe. Right, so there you go. You see all that already from what they're saying, and this is supposed to be a mock news report, right? They've also mentioned as well some things that's quite interesting. They said riots and looting will be going on. So this is probably because people are now realizing that the vaccinations that they're doing is not actually helpful, but it's causing more harm than good. They need to vaccinate about 80% of people. 80% of people. 80% of people. They concluded that there'll be a massive loss of life, the economy would collapse, there'll be great famine, there'll be a lot of hunger worldwide, and there will be civil unrest and civil war. So that concludes the Clade X fictitious exercise there. Okay, so you tell me what you think with that. So fast forward to 2019. The WEF, they teamed up again with Johns Hopkins, the Center for Health Security, with, and I'm going to say this only once because I'm pretty sure the algorithm is going to like bring it up a bit. So I'll say this once and then I'll use the acronyms again for this. I don't like to say their foundation. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We're going to call it B&M Foundation, okay? So they and the Johns Hopkins have teamed up with WEF to also do another fictitious pandemic exercise. And that's again to see whether or not the world is prepared for such a crisis, which they've deemed in the previous year in the Clade X exercise that the world was not prepared for such a crisis or pandemic. So 2019, they've named this new simulation event 201. So as you can see in the photo here, I've just put the picture there and also the dates as well. So this is just before the actual crisis and pandemic of 2020 kicked off. Or I should say 2019, because it really did start in 2019. So the conclusion of this particular simulation, named Event 201, was this is a statement that they said, right? I put a picture here as well of this statement. They mentioned, this was in 2019, right before the kickoff of the C virus, okay? The next severe pandemic will not only cause great illness and loss of life, but could also trigger major cascading economic and societal consequences that could contribute greatly to global impact and suffering. So they are telling you what the fuck is going on, really. But I don't think a lot of people are actually listening. And that's where a lot of people are going to end up suffering. I understand these forums are not really for your average participant of life. Not many people are going to be looking into these forums unless they do have a massive drive or passion for economic related content or things to do with the global issues, or if they're studying those kind of things. The average human really does not really care about things like that. They only care about things that do affect them immediately and in their surroundings that they're dealing with immediately. So most of the time, if it's not affecting them, they don't really care. And a lot of people don't follow these things. But, you know, if you check out these forums, you can tell that there's a timeline of when they've discussed certain things that they want to implement, but they weren't able to implement, or they're trying to implement something, but, you know, they're working on other things as well with the global world leaders, and they need government as well as private sectors to be involved and working together. So, like I say, not many people would be interested in listening to stuff like that. Who cares? Like, most people will be watching Coronation Street or whatever, right? So, the conclusion of the event 201 that was done in 2019 was that, listen to this, there'll be travel bans. Okay, so first of all, let's rewind. This was a simulation of the C virus that we're seeing now. So they're saying, there was a statement that this wasn't a prediction for what was about to occur in 2 months. It was just a pandemic exercise to see how the world would react and how we would cope. So that was their statement, and I've inserted the picture here now. In the simulation for the C virus, they've mentioned that there will be travel bans. There'll be flights being cancelled. There will be talks about what's essential and non-essential travel. I mean, these are things we're seeing now, right? Already. They have been talking about the global financial crisis that will be happening, and again, a fall in the economy. And we can see all that. We can see, we're not blind, we can see how things are going. They keep reiterating about the need for a centralizing of finances. So if you don't know what it means by centralizing finances, this basically means that all the funds or all major funds that the world will be using will be managed by a limited few individuals, and they will decide whether or not it's distributed as and when it's needed. So you, as an individual person, will not own privacy or ownership to your own wallet. So basically, you are working for your money to go into a system where you don't even have access or ownership or privacy to the money that you're working. That's what the centralized finance means, really. So you tell me if you want that for the future, for yourself or for your family, you tell me. So they also discuss about government and private sector coming together to work in a unified way to deal with these pandemics. So does these things sound like what's actually going on now? This was just before the pandemic kicked off. They have been giving you breadcrumbs for you to follow, but many people do not follow these things. Like I say, most people do not care for the economy like that, or the world economy, or other individuals, other societal things that are happening, unless it's affecting them immediately and it's affecting them personally. Most people don't care for these things. So another thing they've mentioned, and I think it's quite interesting, they say they need a Marshall type plan to stimulate change. Marshall type plan. If you think of like martial law, if martial law ever kicks off and is ever implemented, we are basically, we're at the end of freedom, basically. That's what that means, the end of freedom. Like, there's been videos out there of people in Spain who have been trying to walk their dogs and they've been shooted at to say, you know, get back in your house. You cannot be walking your dog. You can't be out here. All because of in the name of a virus, they can basically strip away your rights to even go outside and get fresh air. So just imagine martial law like that. I don't think you want that kind of stuff to be implemented. Another interesting thing that they've mentioned again in this simulation for the C virus that we're also seeing now is that they said that they want to be managing disinformation and misinformation in regards to the pandemic. They are going to team up with the social media platform to make sure that only accurate information and scientific health communities can discuss about the virus. So any disinformation or misinformation from other people, when they say this, I was thinking, they sound like they're kind of scared. Like, why would they be trying to, they're basically trying to shadow ban any other opinions, any other communications from other individual or independent companies or groups or individuals who have a different opinion to what they're trying to feed the populace. So they mentioned they want to flood the social media platforms with the accurate information and only from sources that are reputable, such as WHO and other health-related organizations. They don't want to hear individual and independent sources talking about what they really think. Again, that's freedom of speech being taken away from you guys. They don't want you to voice and try and wake the people up. They want you only to access information from a reputable source. And these sources, they deem what is reputable. So if your information goes against what they're saying, they will just shut you down. And in regards to that, they've also talked about shutting the internet down if ever it becomes a little bit too wild and too many people are going against the grain, the story that they're trying to feed you, They're going to try and shut the internet down. So look forward to that, guys. Possibly in 2021 or a little bit in the future. Remember, you heard it here. So they also mentioned again about stock markets plummeting. The banks are not lending money to people because nobody can pay off the amount of debt that everybody else is in. You can't pay off the debt because it's accumulated so much to the point where, you know, how do you get out of the debt? The banks are not lending money anymore, so you can't even get money to help with mortgages and renting houses, etc. They also mention about the economic turmoil could last about a decade. Does that remind you of something? Like I mentioned before about the Great Depression. That lasted around a decade, started from the late 1920s to early 1940s. Read into the Great Depression diaries and I'll find a reputable book where you can actually read the content that has not been disrupted or changed from, I don't know, these groups that don't want you to see the truth, right? So I'll try and put a link below about these Great Depression diaries. I think it'll be very useful to read those and just kind of get an inkling of what could be happening in the future. But I think it'll be a lot more, it'll be a step further from what happened back then, because where they're trying to push us, where they're trying to lead us right now is in a direction that is basically even more slavery, and it'll be technocratic slavery, because as you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on with AI and a lot of change is happening right now in the world. So those are the timelines. And then obviously, you know, this pandemic kicked off in 2019, 2020, and now we're here in 2021, still going through and trying to make sense of everything. Obviously now, all this time they've been doing these simulations, these fictitious pandemics to find some sort of excuse to put and insert the Great Reset. And it's not a Great Reset, it's a reset. I don't think there's nothing great about what they're trying to do. These malevolent beings, devil worshippers, are trying to implement plans to dehumanize human beings here and basically make them into something other than what they are organically supposed to be. This is a problem, okay? You can see all that's happening right now in 2021. Like I say, they're really pushing forward this vaccine agenda. And in the United Kingdom, they're really getting far with that. The people here, they really do believe that the vaccine is going to help. They are going to be in for a shock when they realize that it's not going to help, and whatever is going to happen is still going to happen. It's just a cycle of where we are, you know, we are in the end cycle. And I will speak a little bit more about the cycles when I speak about the Great Awakening in the next video. There's a reason why all of this stuff is going on, and they're trying to obviously stop something, aren't they? You wouldn't make such a huge dedication and put so much time and effort into creating something like this if there wasn't something greater that was opposing your demonic plans for humanity. So here we are now. Like I say, we are in the times now where we're dealing with this pandemic, and they've already mentioned before about inserting a Great Reset. Now they're trying to push that agenda, and as you can see, it's kind of playing out now in day-to-day living. Like I say, they're now wanting individuals, when they go into shops, you need to scan this barcode to say that you've entered this shop. You don't really have to do these things, but a lot of people do. They scan these barcodes to say they've entered this shop, and they are now in the system. So when you are walking around in this shop or wherever you are, if you cross somebody who's had the virus and you've been in a close proximity to that person, you have to go home and self-isolate, okay? Because the information that's in the system is going to say that you have been in close contact with someone with this virus, and you have to go home and self-isolate no matter what. You just have to get home, or the penalties are going to be high. There is obviously the mask wearing that you see going on right now. People having to wear masks wherever they go. Some countries are asking people to wear 2 masks to get onto public transport. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Like I say, with some of these previous simulations that they've done, and they've spoken about a few things that would be happening. We're seeing them right now. Like I say, unemployment is through the roof. That was another thing that came up through the Clade X report. Unemployment is through the roof. A lot of people are now on government schemes to receive funding because they've either lost their jobs or they are at home. These individuals, they're staying at home. They can't go to work. They're receiving money from work and the government to stay at home, basically. And also as well, like I say, people are losing their jobs. People are unable to pay for their rent. And so there's a lot of government schemes out there to help give people money to survive at the moment. You can see all these things happening, okay? Travel bans, flights being cancelled, essential and non-essential, all these things you can see happening right now. All the things that they pre-warned us about. Like I say, they leave you breadcrumbs, but people are not paying attention. They're not paying attention. A lot of stuff that they've mentioned in both simulations, again, will be coming to pass. Unfortunately, because like I say, it's the end cycle of things, and so therefore you will start to see some crazy things that you would never think you'd see in your life. Okay, some crazy things. So what I want to say in this video is, please be careful with the type of people you choose to engage with, the type of content that you choose to digest on a day-to-day basis. Do your research and be an independent thinker. Do not just be led astray by the story that they're trying to feed you. Do not be sheeple. Think for yourself. So I want to say to you right now, be vigilant and be careful with the type of information you choose to digest. Stay healthy. Stay awake. Prepare yourself for a possible famine in the future, so try and stockpile as much food and water as you can. You will need it, especially if you have family and kids, okay? There has been many talks about civil unrest, and that will probably be happening. It's a very highly probable situation that's likely to pass because of all that's going on and the mistrust with the government and the financial crisis and the economy going downhill, and then all these things that are also being implemented behind the scenes that you're not seeing because they're only focusing on the facade of the virus. All this stuff will be causing some civil unrest with people, and prepare yourself for possible civil war, okay? The truth is showing itself for what it is, and it will be revealed to you bit by bit. Stay aware and stay focused on yourself, your family, your health. Stay open to the truth. Like I say, be careful about the information you digest, but also question everything. Don't just listen to what's been told to you and believe it and follow along. Question everything. And if you are being told that you need a vaccination, like I say, it's completely up to you. If you feel like getting the vaccination will help you, you do you. Ain't nobody can force you not to take this vaccination. But be very aware of the intent behind all that is being done. Look how much they've managed to accomplish in just over a year. In just over a year, look how much they've managed to accomplish. And that's because of the great efforts that's been used by a minute, limited amount of people. They put their minds together. These people are all different ages, walks of life, different ethnicities. It doesn't matter. At the top, it doesn't matter whether you're black, you're white, you're Asian. It doesn't matter. The 1%, the 2%, they don't see all these differences between them. They come together and look what they've been able to manage so far. So if we are able to come together as people, because there's more of us than them, look how much that we can manage to do and accomplish together. Okay? There's a reason for all this. They're trying to stop the Great Awakening. Just be mindful that this is what is happening. A lot of people are not awake yet, but you will start to become more awake as the years go by, and you see that the promises that they're trying to feed you, that they're going to help you and all that, will not be coming to pass, because it's the devil being deceiving. The devil has always been deceiving, and it's that time, guys. It's that time. So get your spiritual armor on. Get your spiritual armor on. I just wanted to say as well, in the forum recently, what they've been talking about in regards to this Great Reset, they have mentioned about building a new social contract. They want to restructure all areas of life. Like I mentioned, travel, schools, pharmacies, pharmaceuticals, education, housing, finances, and they're wanting to make it very centralized. In 2030, they state, you will own nothing and you will be happy. So you see this poster here, this flyer. This information is all online. Everything that I've mentioned here, there's no secret to it. It's all online. It's all there for you to see. You just have to create the time and the space to really read through this information and digest it and just make it out for what it is for you. Okay? They say it's an article. You will own nothing and you will be happy. If this is the future you want for the next generations, then if you don't want this future for the next generation, your children, your grandchildren, then I'll start to act now. And that's my message for today. So this is the first part of the 2-part series that I'll be making. This is about the Great Reset versus the Great Awakening, and I will come back with a more positive video about the Great Awakening, and you will see exactly why they're trying to stop the Great Awakening. So everything happens for a reason. Think of the bigger picture, guys, and I will see you in the next video, okay? Stay woke, stay healthy, stay peaceful, and trust in God, no matter what you do.